Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are putting on our detective hats and cracking the case on a super common and, yeah, pretty frustrating check engine-like code.
So, there it is, that little amber light staring back at you from the dashboard. You plug in your scanner and bam! It gives you the code P0507. If that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place, because we're going to break down what your car is trying to tell you and, more importantly, how to fix it.
So what in the world does that techno jargon actually mean? Well, think of it this way. Your car's brain, the computer, has a very specific speed it wants the engine to run at when you're just sitting still, at a stoplight. This code is basically your car shouting, hey, I'm revving way higher than I'm supposed to, usually by 200 RPM or even more. Your foot's off the gas, but the engine is running a little too wild.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to break down what the problem really is, figure out why your idle is so high, and then we'll line up the usual suspects. From there, it's a step-by-step investigation to find the real culprit, and finally, we'll make the fix and close this case for good.
Okay, let's get right to it. To really understand what's going on with a high idle, we've got to talk about the one thing your engine absolutely needs to run: air.
And you know what? This one little sentence simplifies the entire mystery. Seriously, it doesn't matter if you're driving a truck, a sedan, a sports car, a P0507 code almost always boils down to one single thing. Your engine is gulping in extra air from somewhere the computer has no idea about.
Okay, so if the problem is this rogue, extra air, our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to find where it's sneaking in. And to do that, we first have to understand how the engine is supposed to get its air when it's just idling.
And it really comes down to two main systems. On a lot of cars, you've got what's called an idle air control valve, or IAC valve. Just think of it like a tiny computer-controlled side door that lets in just the perfect little puff of air to keep things running smoothly. Now, on newer cars, it's a little more direct. They use an electronic throttle, so the computer just ever so slightly cracks open the main throttle plate, that big butterfly valve, to do the same job.
But here's the kicker. It really doesn't matter which system your car has. The problem is always the same. That P0507 code means that on top of the air the computer is supposed to be letting in, there's this unmetered air getting in somewhere else. It's like an uninvited guest at the party, and it's making the engine rev way too high.
All right, it's time to line up the usual suspects. We got to figure out where this phantom air is coming from, and we're going to start with the #1 most wanted.
And here's our list of culprits. Now, I want you to look really, really closely at #1, vacuum leaks. I can't stress this enough. All the experts agree. A simple cracked rubber hose, a bad gasket, something just not connected right. That is, hands down, the biggest cause of a P0507. Of course, it could also be a dirty throttle body that's stuck open a bit, a faulty IAC valve, or maybe even a bad PCV valve.
Okay, with our suspects in the lineup, it's time to start our investigation. We're going to do this the smart way, moving from the easy, common stuff to the more tricky things. This is how you find the problem without just throwing parts at your car.
Seriously, following these steps in this order is your fastest path to solving this. First, just use your own senses. Pop the hood, let the engine run. Do you hear any weird hissing or whistling? Can you see any hoses that are obviously cracked or just disconnected? If that all looks good, move on to cleaning the throttle body. A bunch of gunk and carbon can literally prop it open. After that, check the IAC valve if your car has one. And if all of that fails, well, then it's time to hunt for those hidden leaks.
And that brings us to the big question, right? It's the classic detective problem. If you can't see it and you can't hear it, how on earth do you find an invisible leak?
Well, you've got two main ways to get the truth out of your engine. The first is the DIY method. You take a can, something like carb cleaner, and listen, you have to be super careful doing this. And you spray little short bursts around where you think a leak might be, like on gasket edges or vacuum lines. If the engine suddenly changes how it runs, either speeding up or stumbling, bingo, the spray just got sucked into the leak and you found your spot. Now the pro method, and honestly the best way to do it, is with a smoke machine. It gently pumps smoke into the whole system and you just watch. Wherever you see smoke coming out, that's your leak. No guesswork involved.
So once you've found the culprit, whether it was just a dirty part or that sneaky leak, it's time for the final step. Let's make the fix and shut that check engine light off for good. And you know, the fix is often surprisingly simple. It could be replacing a $5 hose, putting in a new gasket, or swapping out a bad valve.
But once you've done the actual repair, you're not quite done. You have to grab your scan tool and clear that P0507 code from the car's brain. Oh, and keep in mind, some cars actually need you to do a special idle relearn procedure to get everything calibrated just right again.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's right here. Before you start worrying about expensive computers or complicated sensors, focus your investigation right here. Cleaning that throttle body and hunting down a vacuum leak, that is going to solve this problem for the vast majority of people out there.
So, are you ready to solve your engine's high idle mystery? Because now you've got everything you need. You've got the clues, you know the suspects, and you have a step-by-step investigation plan. You are totally ready to tackle this check engine light code and get your car purring smoothly at that stoplight again.